Hello, ROM hacking tubers, and welcome back to another Let's Play with me, BlueAnkylo. It's been a long time since I've recorded, so if you're watching this fresh and you're a fan of the channel, my apologies, I'm a little bit rusty. If you're new here, bear with me while I get set up. I'm going to open by explaining the ROM hack a little bit and sort of my plans with it, and hopefully get to the first chapter or two in this episode if we can get through it all. So, Fire Emblem, Game Boy Advance, one of the titles. It's Fire Emblem 8, technically, Sacred Stones, which seems to be one of the more popular ROM hacking ones. And this is one of the larger, like mega ROM hacks. I don't know what you call it, full conversion kind of thing. I'll pull up the link here in a second. But yeah, Cerulean Crescent. I have played through it once, and I've watched a little bit of some other Let's Plays, although not very far. So obviously there's others of us in the biz that are giving this guy some light, but it's a relatively recent ROM hack. I think it's really well done. It's not, I think there's some things that could be improved or whatever. It's not all perfect, and I don't necessarily give it 10 out of 10 for my personal taste, but definitely one of the best ones I've seen for sure. In fact, I would probably hazard to guess the story is better than a lot of the modern Fire Emblem games. I mean, I've played Engage and stuff, and the story was pretty garbo, really, at least for me. Anyway, point is, I think the modders, the ROM hackers themselves done a really good job, both in terms of mechanics and gameplay, as well as like writing and storytelling. Not a whole lot of bad dialogue or cringe or typos and stuff. Like, it's generally a pretty high production value. It's got a ton of stuff. Anyway, let me put the music here on cycle for a bit while we pull something up here. We'll just let the music in gameplay. There's a whole bunch of custom tracks imported in. I mean, it's still going through a Game Boy Advance hardware, technically emulated, but so it's not going to be quite as high quality as like some of the original tracks, or ripped from like Super Nintendo, PlayStation kind of quality audio, but still really impressive work. Whoever's putting all this work transcribing other music into these games is really cool. Always appreciate that when I find it. So let me pull up the site and try to give you a bit of an overview about Cerulean Crescent. So this is the link on FEUniverse.us, I guess. Pretty easy to find if you want to Google it, but if you want to, I'll try to leave a link in the description if I remember. Little basic intro to the story. The main character is Ellery, goes to Cerulean Crescent, sort of frontier land. And yeah, a bit of few, it's kind of classic Fire Emblem story, but it is definitely not nearly as, what would you call it, like serious as the main Fire Emblem games, like the traditional ones are. There's a lot more humor and comedy mixed in. It's kind of self-aware, making fun of other tropes of the genre, and especially a lot of in-jokes for other Fire Emblem games. Probably a lot of it will go over my head if I'm not familiar with the specifics, so feel free to leave comments if you notice references or in-jokes that maybe I'm not able to catch, because there's infinity content, so I only know what I know. But anyway, yeah, there's a full new set of units, rosters. Like, honestly, there's not a lot in common with the original game. A lot of the quality of life improvements from other minor hacks, or minor ROM patches, maybe they call them, have been included, which makes, seeing stats, you can see here a little bit, being able to see your stats without opening up the character menus and stuff, it's very nice, convenient. There's a lot of like, nice to haves like that. Obviously, there's the music, there's new custom, characters and playable monsters and stuff, as you can clearly see. You can see some of the main features here. Tons of characters, honestly, maybe too many. There's a lot of really good characters that are unique because they have skill systems included, of course. Personal weapons, so it's kind of stolen a lot of Fire Emblem mechanics from some of the other games. If you're familiar with like some of the older Super Nintendo ones, like Thracia and Genealogy, some of the like Super Kanto, I guess some of the newer games have that, where you can move after attacking. For some units that's included, as well as like free trading and stuff. Some of that, like, and some of like the free shoving and stuff like that. It adds a lot of flexibility. In fact, sometimes there's too many options, perhaps, but it's lots of fun. Lots of boats, cool stuff. You can custom build a monster. There's chickens, But yeah, it's a really good hack. I will cover. There's in-game tutorials for a lot of this stuff. I'll definitely go through that. Some of this stuff is drastically different than a Fire Emblem 8 game or just a standard Fire Emblem. But yeah, lots of information here if you want to read about it. I'm not going to go over how to patch it, but there's a small tutorial on the link here. And I mean, if you want to play along, you got to get a ROM and patch it. It's pretty easy, but it does take a little work. I'm working on a PC, of course. If you're doing it on your phone, I don't know, it's a little different. there's a list of like all the recruitable characters. There's a fair number that are missable, but honestly, in my experience, these are all pretty easy to get, and you don't need them all. Unlike a lot of Fire Emblems where, I mean, I'm not an expert on this hack yet, but in traditional Fire Emblems, there's usually like, you know, tier lists, of course. Everyone loves their tier lists. And there's always going to be like some characters are just better than others, just flat, unarguably better. And then people discuss all the who's the best at this or that. But anyway, point is, from my experience, there's very few bad units, and everyone is almost too good, and you never have enough deployment slots to put as many characters as you'd like down. So it's like everybody is superpowered in this game is kind of the way it seems, which is fun. You know, it's great. Tons of credits, of course. You know, if you want to reference some of the people who are involved in making the hack, I'm not going to try to read through everybody, but clearly a lot of work went into these sort of fan-made passion projects. So very, very cool. So that's it. I just want to show that for a second there, and then we'll get into the game and maybe cover the tutorial and stuff. See how far we get. All right, so Cerulean Crescent. Here we are. Didn't take too many minutes. Like I said, I have played through it once. I definitely did not 100% it. There's actually quite a lot of missables, and I don't know if there are any really good guides out yet that show all the possible things you can do. There's like side quests and stuff involved in this game. So I'm gonna do my best to early on here. I'm gonna do my best to show off as much content as I can. I can't use all the characters because there's not enough deployment slots. I can't level everybody up. There's like almost too many weapons and items as well. But my goal for Let's Playing traditionally is to try to show off as much of a game as I can. So that's what I will try. Although this is kind of designed, I'm pretty sure, to be replayed a couple times with different characters, different builds, different weapons, and stuff like that. So let's get started here. We're just gonna erase one of my save files. Doesn't really matter too much. And playtime is it's because I've been playing on super speed when I first played through it, so it didn't really take that long to get through it. I have a habit of just leaving it running in the background every now and then because you know, life. But yeah, let's start a quick game here. So no suspend, that's fine. I'll do a little bit of voice acting for fun. There's a lot of text. Dear Mother, the younger me at Aurisil's high tables could not have imagined her future self to sink as low as to rob a tome. It is what it is. Worry not, Mother. My spirit is not daunted even with these setbacks. If this is where my fate lies, so be it. Your loving daughter, Ellery. That's our main character, protagonist. And yeah, the map is a little bit, you know, MS Paint kind of look, but hey, you know, it gets the job done. I'm not even sure how high quality image you can import into these Game Boy Advance games. The amount of technical limitations these ROM hackers have to work with is pretty strict, of course. So they do what they can. And if you can't read if that's an A or a B or an R on Abe or Dupe, I mean, that's just how tiny fonts work. Although I believe before sightseeing happens, there's a tutorial chapter that'll pop up here in a second. Yeah, we'll do it quick. This really doesn't take very long, but I'll show it off just so you guys can learn with me, even though I sort of know what I'm doing at this point. Overall, I consider this hack pretty easy compared to, I mean, it's comparable to normal difficulty on some of the easier Fire Emblem games, like Sacred Stones, I would say. It's just your character units are just so overpowered. It's really easy to snowball into overpowered party composition. We're gonna die! Nah, I hate you. Doesn't matter, we're dead. So yeah, you can see it's a little less serious maybe than typical mainline entries here. So much for being the captain. They didn't even warn me before running all the way out here. Well, time to get myself in shape by saving some children. Alright, so weapon triangle. You know this, hopefully, if you've played any Fire Emblem games before. Swords beat axes, lances beat swords, and axes beat lances. This is a much larger bonus than normal. So you get more damage if you're winning the triangle and less damage if you're losing it, and a huge accuracy bonus or penalty. So just keep that in mind. And there are weapons in game that will double or triple or quadruple this effect. So you can imagine having a weapon that, if you have weapon triangle advantage, gives you 12 bonus damage and 120 extra accuracy. It's bonkers. And it really benefits the players way more than the enemies, because you generally have control over the weapon triangle. Like, it's just the way the game works. So most of the time you're gonna just completely smash enemies with it if you're a little bit careful. And no magic triangle. That's different, I suppose. Usually in this game there's anima, light, and dark. I forget. I think light beats dark, dark beats anima, that kind of thing. Don't worry about that this time around. But resistance is still a thing, so it's fine. Skills, personal weapons. Yep, we'll look at all those. And this is the game. I guess again as the intro. I'm probably going to be using a few save states. I'm going to try to play smart, but this is hard to Iron Man, and the game actually auto-saves every turn anyway, kind of like Genealogy Fire Emblem 4 did. And nowadays, if you play the newer Fire Emblems, they'll have the rewind time stuff anyway, because it's kind of more fun to keep your characters alive and not restart the chapter from the beginning every time. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what's going on here. We've got Ellery, our protagonist, main character. She is sort of the lord of the game. You can press select to see growth rates. I'll actually spend a fair bit of time looking at stuff here, especially the first couple chapters, because the dialogue is like, honestly, they did a good job writing this whole dialogue. The text is good. Yours truly, a former bureaucrat, now Captain Seahawk. I'm down on my luck, but that will change. And she's a supplier. Let's let her use spears and staves, which is cool. Her stats in my first game, she ended up ridiculously overpowered. All of her stats got pretty high. Her growths aren't crazy, but she just started at level 1, and has a lot of time to... I think by the end of the game, you're probably going to be mid-20s to level 30 total, with a couple of promotions in there, depending on how things go. So yeah, she has lots of room to grow, plus she, stat items and growth uppers and stuff. I think if you've played Fire Emblem before, I'm not going to go through the very basics. All the stats are the same. Con reduces weapon weight for attack speed. Aid lets you pick things up. Leadership is kind of this, like the old Thracia thing. Every leadership star on your whole team that's deployed adds a small bonus to hit and avoid. So if you deploy a lot of characters with leadership stars, it does give you a small passive bonus. I will say overall, hit rates are not a huge problem in this game. Unlike vanilla Fire Emblem like 6, 7, 8, a lot of them actually. Our main units are not going to miss very often once we get set up. Just accuracy is just super high if you're using the weapon triangle and stuff. But yeah, the skills are the things you've really got to pay attention to. And they are all kinds of busted if you're comparing them to vanilla mechanics. Lead by example. On a kill, adjacent allies can act again. Only once per turn, so at least it's not super broken. You couldn't like Dancer and do it again, and then Dancer and infinite cycle it, which is probably for the best, because that's already crazy. So if she just does like a melee attack, she can refresh 3 people if they're all adjacent to her. If she does a ranged attack, which is also very smart for her, she can technically refresh 4 people once per turn, like a dancer, like an old school genealogy dancer that dances 4 at a time. Or I suppose there was one of those in not Path of Radiance, or was it? It was the second one, Radiant Dawn, I think, had that. Anyway, she also has convoy access, so you might be like, oh, that's just a simple skill. That's already super, super busted on her own. Then you add in a personal weapon, and you might be thinking, blue, 3 out of 3, that's lame, that's going to break instantly. Well, this game has this hack has a cool self-repair feature, auto-repair. So a lot of, I think all the personal weapons, the specific to a specific unit type stuff, at the end of a chapter, they instantly repair. So you can't really lose them. And I actually really like this system. Like, I have to give this high grades. Basically, it makes you use your ultimate weapons without worrying about losing them too early. And you get a lot more use out of them over the course of the game, I think. This is really nice. And also, you don't have to pay or anything. Like, they're free, so to speak. Like, you could think every time you swing a silver sword, you're kind of using, I don't know, 100 gold worth of value or something, whatever it turns out to be. These don't actually have any, like, cost associated, so it's nice. So, perfect weapon, or personal weapon, I tend to call them. It's probably about as strong as the Iron Lance, except you get a little plus, adds luck to, yeah, see, this is one of those mechanics, I actually forgot about how that worked. Early on, that's a nice little bonus. Later on, it's absolutely bonkers, because you can probably get your luck up to like 30, and just adding 30 to damage, defense, and resistance when you're attacking is, I mean, yeah, pretty crazy. Sure, you can only do it 3 times per chapter, but it's good. Also, it's double weapon triangle for WT there. So if you remember at the beginning there, it's plus 3 damage. So attacking a sword unit normally would do 7 might plus her strength. I mean, it shows you there, attack is 16. If you have weapon triangle advantage, it would normally be 19 damage and 141 hit rate. But with Fenyon, it's actually 22 damage and 170 accuracy. I mean, like I said, you're never going to miss with this kind of stuff. And that's not including the luck on attacking. So this is already crazy, crazy strong. And that's just her. So let's just run through this. I'm not going to, like, if you're playing this for the first time, you'd want to, like, resolve the puzzle. This is like a little tiny puzzle map, but it's really not that complicated once you know how it works. So first thing we're doing is just going to kill this guy, because overpowered spear, absolutely no chance of failure. And yeah, the custom animations and art and stuff, very, very nice. And there you go, you auto-refresh the adjacent allies. Good to see you with us, despite our sudden departure. You really put your back in that stab. Poor guy stood no chance. I like this guy. We'll see. He's a good guy. Mince, yeah. I try my best, Mince. How are we rescuing those kids on the cliffs? You know my teleportation powers. Just casual. I'll cover the kid on top cliff, and the spear won't make a dent. And I'll use guidance to bring that mage where I am and zap him. Easy. If you two have that covered, I'll head out to get Pomelo back on his feet. Alright, that's all I've got. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, so she spent her turn to refresh her allies. It's kind of neat how we start these with everyone already done. I'll just do them in order. I mean, the goal, you pay attention. You have to save all the children, and there's 4 kids spread around. Got to make sure we get them all, or I guess there's 5. Yeah, don't forget that one. But yeah, it's not too hard. So Mince we'll do next. So this is our sort of tank. And you can see his growths are, actually, I mean, 50 defense growth is pretty good. It's hard to compare growth rates across different games. Even if you're comparing Fire Emblem 8 to this hack, the growth rates really only matter compared to other units in the same game, and early on you won't really know what's good growths or not. But yeah, 50s all around are pretty solid. He's a little slow on speed growth, but I mean, that's classic for these kind of armor knight type guys. So Mince, let's see, what's he? Former chef who was knighted for his services, performs both duties well, though he's a bit full of himself. Haha, because he's a chef, he eats a lot, he's always full. Prepare yourself for all the puns. Large can of meat waiting for the magic can opener. So he is armored knight, so he's weak to armor killer weapons. He's an archer, and you get axes. He's got a little bit higher con, although not terribly crazy, to be honest. So he doesn't get weighed down by some weapons. He's pretty slow in terms of movements, down here at the bottom there, but swarp. So this lets him switch spots, swap spots perhaps. So his magic stat actually does something. So his growth rate of 50% magic does mean that he gets longer and longer range to switch position. It does end his turn, but that's still pretty cool. Very, very unique ability. Only allies though. Yeah. And then Kanto Plus basically treats him like a horse unit, so you can attack and move, or swarp and move. And you can imagine just with the positioning, so you can refresh, being able to swarp another ally and then Kanto into position, trying to get multi-refreshes, especially early on, especially on like turn 1 and 2 of a chapter, really, really get that snowball sort of going, really get you momentum. But anyway, let's do this with him first. He's just going to save a child by swarping up. I love it. And he can't attack. I forgot to show his weapons. He just has a regular axe. I don't think he gets a personal weapon. But sometimes a sword just ain't cutting it. He's just gonna go axe guy. But yeah, we'll get him a bow and better axes, and he'll do just fine. He'll be great. Let's do Lindros next, our starter mage, because we got an enemy mage to deal with, and we can't hit him. If we use our regular, he's got what is it? Thunder, yeah. He's only got a range 2 spell. There's no way to get close enough to kill him. How will we save this child? Well. Let's look at what he can do. So, Lindros, graduate mage I hired as runes expert for a bargain price. Says the word knowledge 5 times a day. Pushes glasses up nose. So yeah, just regular anima mage. That's all he's got. He does have a support. There's not a lot of supports. I will say the support system got hacked out mostly. Pomelo is our axe guy. Not the armor axe guy, the other axe guy. And there's a few units that have support bonuses, and the support bonuses are good if you're nearby, but there's no support growths or development, I don't think. It's just, it is, what it starts with, as far as I'm aware. So that's fine. It's one less thing to worry about anyway for grinding. In fact, this game doesn't have a lot of grinding at all. So you look at his stats, you got kind of classic mage stats, magic and skill, but not super speedy, so he's kind of a slow mage, but high magic power tends to make for good mages anyway, and good skill means he hits. Not that that's a problem. I don't think he's actually the best killy unit, but that's fine because his trick is lunge. He will swap places with an opponent. Anything that has a movement speed, so bosses that are stuck on a tile won't move, so you gotta double check. I definitely wasted quite a few turns trying to swap with enemies that were unswappable. But if enemies can move, and you can just check by like hovering over them, basically. He can basically, like, he can position himself and then switch positions with an enemy unit, and then the enemy will be now within range of allies, although this would be very bad for the way this is going to go. But the idea is, like, he can really pull enemy units out of position, and I think, although I don't think I found any boots that increased his movement, but if you could boost his movement, or at the very least just swarp him to safety, the ability to just jump into an enemy formation, take out somebody deadly, and then your group can kill them safely, and then try to find a way to get Lindros or someone else to... You can rescue Statham or something to pull him back, right? Like, there's ways to get around it. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. So he's got Swap. He also has a unique personal weapon. So, technically, you could swap with Thunder. I believe when you do swap, it does 0 damage. Maybe not. Maybe I don't think I use Swap with Thunder very often, but theoretically, you could use this just in general. There's no limit on Swap, I don't think. But the idea is you use Guidance. So Guidance is a long range, 3 to 10. It doesn't deal damage, but you get an extra action. So you can do this 3 times per chapter because it's an auto-repair personal weapon, and basically never misses. I don't think I've ever seen it miss. So the tutorial says, Guidance this guy, do no damage. I might turn off some animations eventually, but I'll definitely try to show them all off at least once. And then I already did it wrong. I attacked, sorry. Good job. This is why I have super speed. So we'll just cycle through that real quick. There is also a way to turn... I think if I hold L or R, I'll double check later. One of the gamepad options will turn off, or speed up or turn off animations a little bit without having to use an emulator. Okay, make sure you select lunge first. Yeah, that's, yeah, I'm just holding R. It's in-game speed up. There we go. So now we switch correctly like I meant to, and now you can do a normal attack with Thunder, and that'll finish him off. Which I said, I think technically we could get back down. Actually, we're going to test this out, because he's going to die one way or the other. I think this will move me back to the low ground, so if this was like a longer battle, this would get him back to the group, if that mattered. Yeah, so yeah, you can use lunge anytime you want. Usually you want a Guidance, long distance, pull someone back, but I forgot a lot, so I'm going to try to remember it for this playthrough, that you can do stuff like that. Okay, all right, where was I? Oriana. This is our dancer. We start with a dancer from Chapter 1. Isn't that great? She's, I guess she's actually kind of the Jagan, sort of. Sort of. Maybe not the real Jagan, but Jagan as an archetype is just over-leveled promoted unit you get at the beginning to carry you. She does some carrying for sure. So Oriana, the crew quartermaster and caretaker, soft-spoken but terrifying when angered, odd skill set for a supposed dancer. So she's definitely a buffed dancer for sure. For one, she can use swords, which is already better than a lot of Game Boy Advanced dancers. Most dancers, I guess. I say the majority of dancers don't get a weapon, but there's a lot of games these days, so maybe that's off. But anyway, swords are certainly fine. And looking at her stats, she's got quite a lot of magic, so she actually is more of a magic swordsman than a physical swordsman, but I guarantee there's lots of magic swords out there. Also very, very fast. For Chapter 1, 17 speed is insane, and her growths are pretty solid for someone who's not a dancer. Her bulk, like defense and res, is bad, but she also has lock touch, so she can open doors and lock, and doors and chests. And this is how dance works this time. She refreshes an ally and herself. So she's got insane mobility, and I'll just show you how this works. So she's going to go refresh Pomelo with her dance. Usually that's all a dancer can do, but she still gets her turn. So she always gets a dance and an attack, or a dance and a shove, or a dance and a run away. It's very safe to use. So her low defense doesn't really matter too much. That pirate's done a runner, but he can't outrun a cannon. I got the land bolt. I got the land boat. I'll let you fire at the pirate first. The blast will weaken the Axeman. Alright, so that's her first turn, but she gets a second turn. And we've had first dance, but what about the second dance? But let's look at Pomelo, our last of our starter characters here. Pirate. I didn't miss anything for her, did I? She does have a leadership star. She does have a support with someone we haven't seen yet. And yeah, just trying to make sure I don't miss too much. Because if I miss it, I'll never remember later on. Pomelo, an affable and optimistic shipwright, in charge of maintaining the ship and navigation. More of a captain than me, yeah. So we're technically like adventuring, traveling ship. You know, we got a ship, like a regular boat, and I guess I think it's very much inspired by like D&D adventures, Dungeons and Dragons. We're more of an adventuring party than a classic Fire Emblem lord, which is fine. So he's a pirate, a regular crook who mastered the magic of water walking, which usually I feel like in most Fire Emblem games doesn't help much other than a couple maps. But in this game, there's a lot of water conveniently deployed, so having this guy just zoom across water tiles can be real nice. Pomelo, I feel like, has some of the worst growths of all of the units I've seen. This is more like a classic Game Boy Advance growth set. Still good hit points growth, but, you know, strength is okay, everything else is pretty bad. But it's okay. I didn't actually use him too much, but he's got kind of an interesting custom. So he turns into a boat, and it's a land boat. So whenever we switch him over, which will happen in a second, he gets bonus movement, defense, and can use some new weapons, but he's worse with his axe. So he's normally an axe guy, and he doesn't actually have an axe right now, but you know we'll get there. But he's got a unique in boat mode explosive blast. So it does damage to the target within 3 to 5 range, and then it kind of explodes and does damage to I think it's enemies. I don't think it does friendly fire. You can't double with it, but you know, 4 shots per chapter, and with a nice big area of effect and 30% HP. Like, again, early on you might think like, oh, the enemies have 20 hit points, you're only doing like 6 or 7 damage. That's okay, and it's a group, so if they're grouped up, that's nice. But it's 33% of their current. I don't think it's maximum. I think it's current HP. So if you've got a boss with like 100 hit points, you don't have to target the boss. You hit something near it, and the boss takes like 33 damage for free with no counters, which can be real good. So yeah, and then you could dance him and do it again, right? So anyway, the trick here is just we got to save this girl. This armored knight is too strong for the dancer on his own, so all we're gonna do is move up a little bit, ride on, and we're gonna shoot the pirate like we were told. I guess there's no animations for boat cannon fire, but yeah, so the guy dies. This guy takes 33% of his health as damage, and technically we can stand on the forest tile for some bonus defense and finish him off. Not sure how they did the RN random number generator. I didn't read anything saying they changed it. The Game Boy Advance ones are generally the 2RN system, where you kind of roll twice and take the better of the two for hit rate. So the numbers displayed are not 100% accurate, if I remember correctly, but 50-50 is perfect. But if you're at like 90% accuracy, it's more like 99%. I think it's stuck to the standard Game Boy Advance rules, but I could be wrong. Also, you know, bonus points in the comments if you label all the background audio. I did keep it fairly low because some tracks are really loud, but there's a nice Secret of Mana going on right now. Admirable showing, Captain. If not for your arrival, I fear what could have been. There is hope for this expedition yet. Does that mean you previously assumed me being in charge would doom us all? That's not quite what I said, but I had some reservations. I'll be sure to replicate today's success in the future. So, yeah, simple tutorial. Pretty hard to mess it up. You just restart anytime it goes wrong. And honestly, it's a bit of a short episode for intro to the series, but 30 minutes I think is probably fine. There is a whole bunch more to learn. There's an in-game guide that covers a lot of the mechanical changes and promotions and notes and history and lore, and I'm going to try to read through that periodically, but not try to front load it too bad. But yeah, I'm going to say that that's kind of our intro to the series here, an episode 1. And next time we'll get to the proper entry to the game. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what it'll look like. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you next time for the real meat of the game. BlueAnkylo out. Thanks for watching and having a great day. I gotta remember how to end these.